What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the 31 Days of Horror. I am your host, Mood616, and thank you once again for stopping in, guys. Yes, 31 Days of Horror Volume 9, Day 29 is coming at you live and direct. All right, so we're going to take it all the way back to the 40s, specifically 1945, and this will actually conclude the fact that I've done a film from every decade up to the present. It's a film I've been wanting to see ever since my podcast co-host Tyler, aka Mr. Saucedo, was talking about this one on an episode that we did called Hidden Gems. And he brought this one up and I was like, oh shit, I actually own this movie. I'd never seen it before. And so it kind of caught my attention. I wasn't even 100% sure that it was even a horror film because I hadn't really looked too much into it and stuff like that. But of course, you know, he talked about it and gave it a good praise and stuff, so I was like, shit, this will be perfect to do on 31 Days of Horror. Alright, so the film in question is from 1945, and it's called Hangover Square. Yes. So, this film was directed by John Bram, he had recently done the larger remake in, like, 1944. I know the name because he directed episodes of, like, The Twilight Zone. He also worked on, The Outer Limits. I believe he worked on The Outer Limits. I'm not sure if he did other horror films and stuff like that. And of course, this one is starring Laird Krieger, Linda Darnell, and George Sanders. Now, Laird Krieger, he actually had starred in his film The Lodger the year before. Actually, I think they were both filmed in like 1944. Unfortunately, Laird Krieger, he actually passed away right after this film. This was actually the last film that he ever did. Unfortunately, I think he died when he was like 29 or 30 years old or something like that. Very, very young, heart attack and stuff. But he was a really good actor. I've only ever seen those two films that he was in. He started acting in 1940 to like 44 when he passed away. He did like 16 movies, but he apparently had a really promising career and he did a lot of really good work. But it really kind of shows in this film. So essentially, he plays a character named George Harvey Bone. He's a composer. And he's working on this concerto for his girlfriend's father's symphony that he's going to be playing at and stuff like that, showcasing in the upcoming future. But he's super stressed out about it, and he's just having a hard time kind of writing it and shit. Now, he does admit to, like, his doctor, psychologist stuff that he's been having these blackouts, like, his entire life. But this one particular night, he has this blackout, and, you know, and he was at this place where somebody got stabbed and got, you know, burnt and stuff like that. And he wasn't sure that it was him. Like, he wasn't really too sure and stuff like that. The cops kind of clear him of the crime, but unfortunately he keeps having these blackouts and bad things keep happening and stuff like that. So yeah, and I'll just leave the premise of the film right there. Now, my thoughts on Hangover Square. This is a really good film. Very, very well acted by Laird Krieger. Like, he is absolutely phenomenal as the composer in this film. It's an interesting film. It's a really interesting film because, you know, it's established that he has a girlfriend, right? In the film, played by, I think, not Linda Darnell, the other girl that's in this. And, you know, because, you know, he's got this girlfriend and he's working basically for her father and stuff like that. But what happens in the film that kind of like sets him off a little bit more besides having these blackouts, which are actually contributed to a really interesting thing where he hears certain sounds and then he goes into like this blackout kind of phase and then he doesn't remember what happens and stuff. I thought that was an interesting thing for a composer where you hear like a certain note or a certain sound and it just kind of like makes you kind of discombobulated and you go fucking haywire and stuff. I think that's pretty cool. But what happens is one night he goes to this bar to go meet his friend, and he meets this girl played by Linda Darnell named Nettie. And she's like a bar singer and stuff like that. And, you know, she's looking to basically kind of get some... She finds out that he's a composer, and she wants to kind of like, you know, kind of tease him into giving her some songs, you know, to sell and stuff like that. And that's kind of what she does. She kind of like seduces him in a way, and he kind of falls for it. Like, he like basically thinks that she's in love with him and stuff like that. But when he finds out that she's going to marry this other guy, it kind of fucking sets him off even more and stuff like that. So it's an interesting dynamic because, like, he has a girlfriend in the film, but then he's like going after this other girl, Netta. It's kind of complex and things you don't really see a whole lot in the 40s where it's just kind of blatant. But I don't know. It's not like written in stone that he was going to be marrying this other girl, Barbara, but, you know, he's falling head over heels for her, and then he kind of goes insane and stuff like that. So, but all in all, you know, this is a really interesting, good, and really good movie. I have to say, the whole build up to this film, like into the climax, the third act of the film, is very, very well done. It's dark, it's atmospheric, it's acted really well. The dialogue's really good in the film, and yeah, I've got to say, like, just the slow kind of forebodingness throughout the whole film, and what happens with certain characters. Certain people do die in this film, and yeah, it's a really interesting way to build up to the climax, where his concerto that he writes and actually performs in the film goes so well with the build up right into the third act, and it's because it's super dark. Like, I mean, it's obviously playing off the psychosis and the mentality that he's portraying, you know, the character in the film. And it comes out in the super dark elements, and then what happens in the third act is just super, super crazy too. Now, I love the way this movie actually opens up. It's pretty cool, and it's not really a mystery per se, because you know that he is doing bad things in this psychosis, in this kind of like blackout stage that he's in. And because in the opening scene, he actually does stab this like merchant guy and lights this whole place on fire, and this guy like burns up and shit like that. It's kind of crazy, and you're like, oh goddamn. So it's not really a mystery on who's doing the killings. It's a matter of him not really knowing, and the mystery of, like, you know, everyone else trying to figure out what the hell's going on, because other people die with him. I'm not gonna give it away and stuff like that, but yeah, really cool. There's a really awesome scene in this film with this huge bonfire. And like, there's a whole kind of subplot with why there's a bonfire and stuff like that, but it's like this big 40-foot bonfire, and yeah, it's pretty awesome how they do it, and it looks pretty fucking, it's super neat and like atmospheric and stuff. It's pretty awesome how it's shot and stuff. It's a Fox film, so it's shot on sets. Obviously, it's in the 40s, and I mean, not a lot of films are generally shot on location in those days with the studio films, because they were studio films. They used their own studios. So, but I will say, you know, it's a film from 1945. It takes place in the early 1900s London, so it's taking place during the Victorian times era, and yeah, I thought they captured like the aesthetic of it really, really well. It's not that far removed. I mean, in the 40s from the early 1900s, so maybe only about 40 years later, but still, I thought the aesthetic and, you know, even the way they talked and stuff like that was really well done. So, yeah, I wasn't 100% sure, because sometimes Tyler can be a big fucking liar on the podcast and be like, yeah, this is a horror movie, and I'm like, oh, okay, man, does it actually have a horror tag on it? And it does, and it is definitely a horror film. It is very dark. It's a lot darker than I thought it was going to be. And yeah, very, very good direction in the film. It only runs about 77 minutes. It's a quick watch. There's a little bit of melodrama stuff, of course, because you have the relationships that's going on with George and Barbara and Netta and stuff like that, and, you know, but it's not like overly done. It's more about, it's a character study of this guy and his like psychosis and his blackouts, and, you know, writing the compositions for this concerto and stuff like that. And I gotta say, like, again, man, I thought the concerto that he performs is fantastic. It's like really, really dark. It's awesome. It just fits the whole aesthetic of the film and the whole idea of the film too. It's really well done. So very, very fascinating movie. Now this is a movie that I would love to see, not a remake of, but just kind of like an updated version of it. Like, even though this is, I think it's very, very perfect, but to do it a lot more modernized in terms of, like, you know, just showcasing more violence and things like that, because I think there's a lot you could do with this character and stuff. But if we never got one, I'd be totally fine with that, because I'm not really the hugest fan, and, you know, I mean, I'm not an advocate against remakes and stuff like that, but at the same time, a lot of them don't need to be done. But this would be an interesting film to modernize, you know, because we still have concertos, we still have symphonies and things like that, but just kind of put a modern twist, a more violent twist on it. But very good film, very, very good film. Very happy that this one turned out to be actually a horror film. Thank you, Tyler. Yeah, so that's day 29. If I had to rate this one, I'm going to give this one a solid 8.5 out of 10. It is definitely moved up there for one of my favorite films of this era in the 40s. I mean, there's a lot of films in the 40s, you know, horror films from the 40s that are really good, but, you know, hidden gem for sure. I've never really heard a lot of people talk about this one, and yeah, fantastic stuff. It's just, rest in peace to Larry Krager, man. Like, the guy was really, really fucking good in this. And when he played in the Lodger remake too, which is a remake of Hitchcock's silent film. I believe that's the first remake. I'm not 100% sure. I think it is. I'm not 100% sure. I know it's been done a few times, but he's really good in that film too. And yeah, so Hangover Square, give it a shot. Of course, it is black and white. It's classic Hollywood Fox stuff. So yeah, anyways, that's going to conclude day 29, guys. We're getting close to the end. So tomorrow is day 30, and we're going to be going on another trip. This is actually an American film that's set in London, so yeah. But anyways, I will catch you guys tomorrow, and as per usual, deuces!